Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Visibility Factor podcast. This is Sue Barber, your host. So I want to share something that I'm doing this week that might be helpful for you to think about for yourself. AJ Harper, who is my book editor, who has been instrumental in helping me get the Visibility Factor written and my new workbook, Your Journey to Visibility, which comes out in the fall. We have been talking a lot about the problem of visibility and what is really driving that problem. And so I wanted to share some things with you. I'm going to pull some notes up because it was fascinating to me when she sent out a prompt as part of this summer program and said, describe why this problem exists and why it persists. Now describe what would happen to your readers and to the world if the problem were to continue indefinitely. So I want you to think about that for a second. If people were not visible, if you were not visible, if companies didn't have people in their organizations who spoke up and tried to make things better, what would happen? Things would kind of fall apart, right? Things would not operate in the best way. When I got this prompt, it really made me think about the problem I'm trying to solve. And sometimes AJ talks about, sometimes we go into solution mode because, especially as an IT person, in my past, that was what my brain was trained to do, is what are the solutions we can come up with. But if I think about it from a problem standpoint, it does change the lens for me and what I'm doing. I just want to share a couple of things that I wrote to have you consider for yourself where you are. So I wrote down, communicating effectively with senior leaders is a challenge for many high achievers as they look for ways to advance in an organization. It can feel as if there is a quote unquote secret language that needs to be used and they don't have the words. It isn't that they don't try, they do, but they may not feel confident about what they share, and then they will tell themselves that they just aren't good at it. Many will use this story as a way to hide, stay safe, and stuck at the position that they're at, instead of searching for an alternative. What these leaders don't realize is that the language their senior leaders are using isn't special or secret in any way. One of my potential clients said to me is, I feel like the senior leaders have this special language. I feel like they're looking for me to use this special language, and I don't know what it is. And so I want you to think about that for you. Are you telling yourself a story somewhere that is keeping you hidden, keeping you in the background, and not allowing you to really shine, not allowing you to speak up and share your ideas? And so when we think about this, imagine what happens if people aren't visible. What happens to you? If you want the next role in a company, then my advice is to look ahead to see what is expected. When I coach clients, I ask them to look at the competencies for their role and at what level they are demonstrating them. Some companies have a career path chart that shows expected competencies by level. It can be helpful from an objective point of view to determine where they would assess themselves and also where their managers might assess them. What are other people at that level doing? How can you fast adapt some of the behaviors and language into your own role now? You can do this more easily than you think, and some simple changes can make all the difference. Many people don't want to put the work in to make this shift. It isn't more work. It's leveraging what you're already doing. How can you use different questions in meetings or in one-on-ones? When you think about the information you want to share with your manager, how can you plan out and focus it more strategically? How can you position it in a way that they can hear you? How can you be more consistent and intentional with the value that you bring? So those are all the things that I wrote when I think about people who are struggling with this challenge of moving from where they are to where they want to be, and they might be using stories as a way to hold them back. So the next part I wrote, which I found fascinating for myself, even, doing this work all the time, and I'm still finding things that come out for me when I write about this. So the question I wrote down is, what happens if nothing changes? You will continue to stay in the role you are in and not be recognized for the value that you bring. You can keep doing the same things while expecting a different result, but it won't get you promoted. You can blame others instead of looking within to see what changes you need to make. You will become resentful and disengaged. Can't tell you how many people struggle with wanting something to be different, but not necessarily wanting to do the work to make that happen, or standing up and advocating for themselves. I think they do want to, they don't know how, and so it is a reason to stop and not do something. You will hold back on your opinions and ideas that could be viewed as highly valuable. your company will lose out on the great ideas, creativity, and innovation that you could offer them. You could lose your job because you aren't demonstrating the value that you bring. You could have regrets when you're older because you didn't live up to your full potential. You will lose out on earning potential and financial security because you haven't advanced enough to take advantage of those things. Sitting in silence is only hurting you and not the company. They will find someone else to speak up and add value if you don't. So no one is irreplaceable. Everybody can be replaced at any time. And if you're not demonstrating value and making an impact, you're at risk. And I found that to be true for myself, and I've seen it happen in many companies where someone isn't really putting forth the effort, and so they'll find someone else who will do it. Especially in the job market we're in today, there's a ton of people out on the job market who are really great. And so you need to continue to show the value that you bring to an organization so they keep investing in you. The next one is you could lose your entire group if you're not showing the value, not only for yourself, but for your team and the work that you're doing in your group. When I took over one of the master data groups, my boss, Mary Beckfield, who was a guest on the show, gave me a book. And one of the things she said is your role is to think about what's going to happen with this group. You have to set the vision, the strategy, plan for it. You're the only one thinking about this group. You have to be the one to figure it out. It gave me this opportunity to really think about that from a different perspective. And I don't know that I would have done that without that conversation with her, but it really helped me understand if I'm not doing the right things, then they could be at risk. The last one I had on the list here is if you aren't sharing more about what your team does, then no one will know them. They need you to talk about them and teach them how to talk about their own successes too. I taught my team when I was learning all these things about visibility, and I invited them to sit at the table with the executive team and do presentations. I was being strategic and intentional with that because I wanted them to know that they had a place at the table, and they did not feel that way before. And I wanted them to know that what they had to say was valuable. And so I gave them opportunities to present. I gave them space to be showing up in a different way because I wanted other people to see them that way. So if you're a leader of a team, are you giving your team opportunities to do this as well? For today's visibility action plan, what I'd love you to think about is where are you at in terms of some of these things that I just brought up? How would you rate yourself? How would you assess your team? I think every person has the opportunity to make this shift for themselves. Imagine an entire team making this shift. What is the ripple effect it could have on not only the people in the organization using their voice in a bigger way, but it could also help the results of the company, help everybody start to play bigger, start to think out of the box. What could be created and built because of what you start to do and when you start to speak up. And I wrote the workbook because I knew that there was more that people needed to say, and they needed language to be able to do that. So the workbook will help with some of that when it comes out this fall. But I'm excited to see you start doing some of this now. You have the ability to make this shift today. You don't have to wait. There's no permission slip I need to give you. You get to start today. So I'd love to hear what you thought about this episode. I'd love you to share it with other people who might be struggling with some of this too. We all have the opportunity to be visible. It's just a choice. Try things that are out of your comfort zone and see what happens. See how people respond to you. Thanks so much for joining today on the Visibility Factor podcast, and we'll catch you on the next one.